Hello, you're watching The Luna Show, and right now you're about to meet Douglas Says. He's one of those people that has been around for many years, making some of the best gowns and outfits for some of the legendary girls from our scene, from Anjanae to Tanay to Tracy Africa and Danielle Revlon, and the list goes on. The girls love to wear Douglas Says. He's written a book. Actually, he's working on several books, but he wrote one which I have. And so you will learn a little bit about that and also about his career and life. So I hope you guys enjoy. Hello, Douglas Says.
Hello, Luna.
How are you?
I'm well. I'm well.
Good. Thank you for doing this. I'm actually excited.
I'm excited. Thank
Very
you for
excited.
having me.
I'm excited because you have such a huge history, knowing some of the legends and icons in our scene, but also you just have your own personal life that, many of us dream about. And that's working in television and as a stylist and with the news and celebrities and even designing your own things. Tell me a little bit about the early days of, being a model and designing.
Okay. Well, I started out in Newark. That's where I'm from Newark, New Jersey, where there was just a whole bunch of people that were really talented that were before me. So I was watching them, as I grew up, which Tracy is one of those people, Tracy Norman. And I started when I was in high school. I started designing first, and I took a men's tailoring course in school, and that's how I learned how to sew. But at the same time, I had like an aunt that sewed, and I would watch her, and she would let me use her machine. My mother wouldn't let me use the machine. I don't know why. I mean, it wasn't like she didn't know, because she knew. And I don't think it really bothered her either, because I had two cousins before me that were gay. One was a drag queen who was my idol. That is how I came to know about fashion. Looking at my cousin, she just summed up fashion to me. And her name was Lee Wong from the House of Wong, the Duchess of Wong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then she had a best friend, which was Gigi Wong. And they both could sketch. They went to arts high school in Newark. And just watching them. So I got makeup, I got fashion, I got hair, all from watching them. I didn't know what was going on at that time because I was a kid, I just knew that meant glamour, and that's what I wanted to be a part of. I actually wanted to be like my cousin. I remember once when my cousin's boyfriend asked me, a young kid, my cousin's boyfriend asked me, he's like, are you going to be like your cousin when you grow up? And I was like, and he said, then I'm going to be waiting for you. And which I had a crush on him anyway, so when I got older I was looking for him, but I didn't find him. Yeah.
Did you ever get to make an outfit for your cousin?
No, my cousin died in '77 in a car accident. Well, they say a car accident in Germany. My cousin was also in the service in the army. So, I guess off base, she was still doing drag, So, because, she was more like a butch queen in drag, but when she was home, she lived in drag, full time. So, but she was, she died in Germany in '77, which I was 16 at the time. So, but I think everything happens for a reason. I think if my cousin had not died at that time, then I would have become a drag queen because she had such a strong hold on me without even trying, so I would have followed in her footsteps. But because I went to Westside High School and I met my then and now best friend Linwood Allen, who's also a designer, growing up, he kept me from being a flame, so to speak, because I had it all up in me, I'd have my little compact with my little lip gloss in it, my wrist was always dropped, whatever. But he would hit me or pop me, to keep me from doing that. So therefore, it made me go back in the closet, kind of, sort of. But eventually, my drag demon got the best of me, and it came out somewhere around 1981. Yeah. So yeah.
So in 1981, so that's kind of at the time of the era that we all talk about in the ball scene.
Oh yeah.
How do you even come into the scene like that?
Well, actually, it was, the village was just a whole nother place. It was just a whole nother place. I went to not Data, that was way before. Peter Rabbit's. Peter Rabbit's, which sat right on the water. And I went there one night and I saw a drag show for the first time in my life. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. And, so then I started going back. And then a couple of weeks later, the DJ from Peter Rabbit's, who was also the DJ at Murphy's, which is a bar in downtown Newark, bought those drag queens over to Newark to do a show at Murphy's. And they did a show, and I was like, well, actually, reverse. I saw them at Murphy's first, and then they said that they were from Peter Rabbit's. So then I went to Peter Rabbit's, and I started going to Peter Rabbit's. And then in my head, that's when it started building up that, I can do this, I want to do this, I want to do a show. So I did a show after that,
And you continued to do it for many years after that?
For many, many years. There was a time where she just kind of took over, she just kind of took over. And but she was, she also fed my glamour, the glamour part of me.
And at that same time, you were also doing balls, or you didn't really get into it like that?
I wasn't doing balls. At a point, I walked a ball once or 2 or 3 times, but I never really understood, the whole. Not so much that I didn't understand, I didn't understand their policies, like you say, runway walking. I mean, I was at a point, moving forward, I started modeling, I started modeling before I started designing. But when I got older, in my 20s and 30s, I went to London. I went to Japan, and I did shows in Japan, and I did shows in London. So then you come back, and then you walk a ball, and you're supposed to be walking model's effect or runway, but it's totally not what it is. You know what I mean? So I'm
it's exaggerated. That's
yeah,
why,
it's
right?
way. And I was at that time. I was with the House of Richards. With Taraji Richards was the mother, and Richard was the father. And so I walked the ball. First I walked runway, and then I got up in drag, and I walked butch queen in drag. But I wasn't exaggerated enough for that. So.
But even with that, at that time, you were already mingling with some of the, future legends and icons in our scene as models for some of your pieces.
Oh yeah. Well, once I started, when I did start doing women's wear, and then I went to design school. I went to Trapegan School of Design, which Jeffrey B. and Klein Galanos are some of the alumni from that school. And then also I went to FIT. So once I did that, a whole another world opened up for me, which was always what I wanted anyway, which was, where I was going. But what happened was my confidence level wasn't there. I wasn't confident in myself or my ability. So that's why I went back to school to FIT. And when I went to FIT, they told me, through the screening, they said, well, they're looking at my book, they're looking at my samples, and they said, well, you don't need to come to school, you got everything you needed from Trapegan, but we'll take your money if you want, you can come. But
that was at FIT?
Yeah.
They said you don't need to come to them?
Because I had already
You were that good already?
Well, I had already done 2 years at Trapegan, but it was my confidence that kept me from moving forward, what I mean? Where I am now mentally and in ability, I was nowhere near that in my 20s, I was clueless, I was very insecure. It took a long time to become, who I am now, in my ability. In part, the girls helped a lot. And when I say the girls, I mean like Tracy and Octavia and Danielle and Keisha and Tanay, Tanay, all of those girls. I think out of all of them, well, definitely Tracy. Because me and Tracy, we have a history. We're family more than anything else. Other than that, I would say Danielle. Danielle was amazing. I didn't like the relationship that the ball world has with her. I mean, I didn't have that kind of relationship with her. It was more of a personal relationship because I made clothes for her, and I think what happened is I did a show in '92, and the show was at this place called Lola's on 20-something Street. And in the show, I had Portia, Octavia, Tracy, and then a host of my girlfriends who were in the show. It was a hot show, and this was like an elevation for me because I had just done this collection, and it was what would become my signature, and that's what it did. It became like a signature, and like those ball pictures of Danielle and Tracy when they're battling at that famous ball in '92 or '3, whatever that is. Those were the dresses from that show. You know? And actually almost everybody that night had on a dress from that show. Stephanie had on a dress, Keisha had on a dress, Kelly Cole had on a dress. You know, it was for me. It was, you know, wow, look at all these girls in, you know, in my clothes. It was really cool. But Danielle was to me the one who made everybody. Well, of course Tracy first because, you know, Tracy's like the leader of the pack. You know, she wore me. You know, she brought me to them. You know, and then, you know, once Danielle, because Danielle had a way of making almost like she was selfish. She didn't want anybody else to have you. She didn't want anybody else. She wanted to be the only one. She wanted to be special, and you had to treat her special. You know. But you know, she was a good girl. I like Danielle, and Octavia too. Octavia and I both were Pisces. You know, Octavia was very, very, very special. I think it's crazy
she was feisty.
Danielle was feisty. But I think, you know, in the end, it's like it's crazy. I was going through some stuff, and Octavia had reached out for me on MySpace, because at that time I was like on MySpace, and but I didn't like call her back or reach out to her, but I didn't know what was going on with her. And then shortly after that she died. The same thing happened with Kelly Cole. You know, I was going through some stuff, some real crazy stuff, and I hadn't heard from her in a couple of days. And me and Kelly was real cool. She'd come over, she'd spend the night, she'd just chill for a couple of days. You know, it was really, really cool. And me not hearing from her, I'm like, hey, what's up with Kelly? But I was going through some real crazy stuff, so I really couldn't even. And then finally she called me, and she sounded so weak, and you know, but at that time she was in the hospital and she was sick, and she wanted me to come see her, but I didn't go. I regret that, but I didn't go because once again I had some really crazy stuff going on. But yeah, I've had special relationships with a lot of the girls.
And a lot of them have won grand prizes with your outfits, your designs. You know,
I feel like I was elected or selected or nominated by them, you know, to be, you know, it, Douglas says. And once again, I think Danielle had a lot to do with that, you know. Actually, one of the labels in one of my dresses, I called it Douglas Says, of course, because that's what she used to say all the time. You know, when somebody asked her, what is she wearing? She said, Douglas Says, of course. So, you know, I had my label be that. But, yeah.
And she was always done.
Yes.
So it's actually cute now for me, you telling me the story, but I remember all the gowns that she became iconic for wearing, and the look that became her standard, and it's, you know, you had something to do with that.
Yeah.